Hello and welcome. In today's episode, we are going to explore a topic that is essential for anyone planning to conduct research involving human participants. We're talking about IRB approval. You might be a student starting your thesis, a doctor testing a new treatment, or a public health researcher running a community survey. Regardless of your role, if your research involves people, you need to understand what IRB approval is, why it matters, and how to navigate the process from beginning to end. Understanding and respecting the IRB process protects not just your participants, but also your credibility and the integrity of your research. We will break this down into simple terms and real-life examples. Let's get started. Section 1. What is IRB? The term IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. Let's pause here because it's easy to gloss over this definition, but it's worth diving into. An institutional review board is a committee that has been formally designated to review, approve, monitor, and sometimes even reject biomedical and behavioral research involving humans. The primary purpose of the IRB is to ensure that the rights, welfare, and privacy of human participants are protected. The idea is to bring together a group of people with diverse perspectives to evaluate whether the research respects human dignity, avoids unnecessary harm, and provides clear information to participants. Section 2. Why IRB approval is important. Now that we know what an IRB is, the next question is, why do we need IRB approval? Can't we just be ethical on our own? Maybe, but history shows that even good researchers can make mistakes without proper oversight. The IRB is like a seatbelt. You may not always need it, but it protects everyone if something goes wrong. 1. Protecting human participants. This is the most important goal. IRB makes sure participants understand what the study is about, agree to join willingly, and face the least possible risk. For example, if blood is being taken, IRB checks how much is needed, if it's really necessary, and if the person is okay with it. 2. Ensuring ethical standards. IRB reviews whether the study is ethically correct. It asks, is the consent process clear? Are the risks and benefits balanced? Are vulnerable groups, like children or sick people, protected? 3. Legal and regulatory compliance. In the U.S. and many other countries, IRB approval is required by law, especially if the research gets federal funding. Without it, researchers can face lawsuits, lose their job, or lose funding. 4. Academic and professional credibility. Most journals won't publish research unless it has IRB approval. Funding organizations also ask for it. Without approval, your research may not get published or supported. 5. Protecting the researcher. IRB protects not just participants, but also researchers. If something goes wrong or someone complains, having IRB approval shows you followed proper rules. It helps protect your reputation. 6. Encouraging responsible science. IRB approval makes you think carefully about your research design, methods, risks, and ethics. It's not just paperwork, it helps improve the quality and safety of your research. Section 3. Types of IRB review. Did you know that not all research is reviewed the same way by the IRB? Depending on how risky your study is and what kind of data you collect, your project will fall into one of these 3 review types. 1. Exempt review. This doesn't mean you're free from all responsibility, it just means your study is very low risk for participants. Common examples include anonymous surveys on safe, non-sensitive topics, educational tests done in class, using public data that already exists. Even if you think your study qualifies as exempt, you must still send it to the IRB. Only the IRB can officially decide it is exempt. 2. Expedited review. This review is for studies with minimal risk and that follow certain guidelines set by the government. Examples include taking small amounts of blood from healthy adults, simple physical checks like measuring height or body temperature, using audio or video recordings for study. Expedited reviews are faster because only 1 or 2 IRB members check the study, not the whole board. It usually takes a few days to a few weeks. 3. Full board review. If your study has more than minimal risk, it needs a full board review. This means a group of IRB members meet to carefully discuss and review your research. Full board review is needed for clinical trials with drugs or medical devices, research with children, prisoners, or people with mental disabilities, invasive procedures like biopsies, any study that could cause serious physical, emotional, or mental harm. This type of review takes longer and needs a full, detailed plan. You should be ready to answer questions about your study. Section 4, Steps to get IRB approval. Let's now walk through the actual process of getting IRB approval. This part is crucial because even if you have the best intentions, your research can't proceed until you've successfully completed this process. It may seem intimidating, but I'll break it down step by step in plain, understandable language. Step 1. Determine if you need IRB review. The first step is a simple but vital one: determine if your study requires IRB approval in the first place. Here are a few questions to ask yourself. Are you interacting with people directly? Are you collecting private, identifiable data like names, medical history, or personal opinions? Are you using existing data that could be traced back to individuals? If you answered yes to any of these, then your study likely qualifies as human subjects research and will require IRB oversight. Even if your study seems harmless, like a questionnaire asking about coffee preferences, if the answers could reveal someone's identity or sensitive habits, IRB approval is still needed. Step 2. Write a comprehensive research protocol. Now, it's time to write your research protocol. Think of this as your study's blueprint. It's the document that outlines every single step of your research plan. Here's what a strong protocol should include: title and abstract, a clear, concise title and a brief summary of what your research is about. Background and rationale: why are you doing this study? What problem are you addressing? What has already been studied in this area? Objectives and hypotheses: what do you hope to discover or prove? Study population: who are your participants? How many will you recruit? Are they adults, children, elderly, or another group? Inclusion and exclusion criteria: who is eligible or ineligible to participate, and why? Recruitment plan: how will you find your participants? Will you use flyers, online ads, or contact lists? Study procedures: describe each step in the participant experience, from consent to data collection to follow-up. Risks and benefits: what are the possible physical, emotional, or privacy risks to participants? What benefits might they receive? Data management plan: how will you store data? Who will have access? How will you ensure confidentiality? Statistical analysis plan: how will you analyze the results? What software or methods will you use? Monitoring and adverse events: what will you do if something goes wrong? How will you monitor for harm? Timeline: when will the study start and end? What are the major milestones? It's important to write your protocol clearly. Avoid jargon and overly technical terms. Imagine that someone unfamiliar with your field needs to understand your entire study. Step 3. Create the informed consent form. The informed consent form is one of the most critical documents in your IRB application. It must be written in plain, easy to understand language and should cover the following: what the study is about, what participants will be asked to do, any risks and potential benefits, how long participation will take, that participation is voluntary and can be stopped at any time, how privacy and confidentiality will be protected, whom to contact for questions or problems. The goal here is transparency. Participants must be able to make an informed decision about whether or not to participate, and they must never be pressured or misled. For minors or vulnerable populations, a parent or legal guardian's consent may be required. Some institutions also require an assent form for children who are old enough to understand the research. Step 4. Submit the IRB application. Now that you've completed the training, drafted the protocol, and created your consent forms, it's time to submit your IRB application. Most universities and research institutions have an online IRB portal for submissions. The application typically includes general information about you and your team, the complete protocol document, the informed consent forms, any recruitment materials, like flyers or emails, copies of surveys, interview guides, or assessments, certificates of completion for human subjects training. After submitting, you'll receive a confirmation and a reference number. This does not mean your research is approved yet, it just means your submission is now under review. Step 5. Respond to IRB feedback and revisions. In most cases, the IRB will have questions or request changes. This is normal and part of the process. You might be asked to clarify your inclusion/exclusion criteria, make your consent form easier to read, provide more detail on data confidentiality, justify why a certain procedure is necessary. Be prompt and professional in your responses. Address each comment clearly and completely. Once the IRB is satisfied, you'll receive an IRB approval letter. This document is essential, you must keep it on file and include it in any publications, presentations, or reports. Step 6. Conduct the research. With approval in hand, you can now begin collecting data. But remember, IRB oversight doesn't stop once you get the green light. You must stick to the approved protocol. Only use the approved consent forms. Monitor participants for unexpected issues. Keep accurate, confidential records. If anything changes in your study, even something small, you must submit an amendment to the IRB before implementing that change. Common examples include adding a new survey question, changing the number of participants, or modifying recruitment methods. Also, if a participant is injured or distressed, this must be reported to the IRB immediately. Step 7. Submit progress reports and final report. If your study lasts more than a year, you'll need to submit continuing review reports. These help the IRB assess whether the study should continue, whether there are any new risks, or whether participants are still protected. Once your study is complete, you must submit a final report. This document confirms that all activities have ended and that data is being stored or destroyed according to your original plan. Failure to submit these reports can result in your IRB approval being suspended or revoked. Section 8. Real-life scenarios. To better understand how the IRB process works, let's look at real-world examples. These show both simple and complex research situations. Scenario 1. The Student Stress Survey. A psychology student surveys university students about stress during exams. The survey is anonymous and includes questions on sleep, anxiety, and study habits. IRB category: exempt. Reason: minimal risk, no sensitive data, anonymous. IRB focus: making sure questions aren't too personal and data can't be linked to individuals. Even low-risk studies need IRB review to confirm exemption. Scenario 2. A new drug trial. A company tests a new drug for high blood pressure. Participants get either the drug or a placebo and are monitored for 6 months. IRB category: full board review. Reason: high risk, drug testing, long-term follow-up. IRB focus: safety, informed consent, side effects, and data monitoring. Full review is needed for medical trials with potential risks. Scenario 3. Interviews with refugees. A public health researcher interviews recent refugees about their healthcare experiences, including trauma and discrimination. IRB category: likely full or expedited. Reason: possible emotional risk, vulnerable group. IRB focus: privacy, trauma-sensitive questions, multi-language consent, emotional support. IRB may require extra protection like having a counselor available. Scenario 4. Using social media data. A researcher studies vaccine opinions using public Twitter posts, but wants to include usernames and profile pictures. IRB category: possibly full review. Reason: public data but personally identifiable. IRB focus: ethical use of public info, consent waiver, protecting identities. IRB ensures no harm is done, even when using public content. Scenario 5. Children and educational apps. An education company tests a reading app in elementary schools. Children use it in class, and their progress is tracked. IRB category: full review. Reason: involves minors, education data, and multiple consent needs. IRB focus, parent permission, child assent, data privacy, school approvals. Research with children requires layered permissions and careful handling. These real-life examples show that IRB approval isn't one size fits all. The level of scrutiny depends on the type of study, the people involved, and the potential for harm. And there you have it, a complete, in-depth look at what IRB approval is and how to get it. If you're doing research involving people, you need to treat them with dignity, honesty, and care. The IRB exists to ensure that. So whether you're a student, scientist, or healthcare provider, understanding and respecting the IRB process is not just a requirement, it's a responsibility. Thanks for watching. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Stay curious, stay ethical, and good luck with your research journey.